Stanley Kubrick didn't just make films, he exposed truths. His final movie, Eyes Wide Shut, pulled back the mask on the rituals of the elite. And just days after delivering his final cut, he was dead. Officially, it was a heart attack. But a CIA officer, speaking on his deathbed, confessed it was an assassination, carried out under orders from above. He revealed that the Eyes Wide Shut we saw was a mutilated version of Kubrick's vision, its narration torn out, whole sequences erased, and a chilling subplot exposing elite paedophile networks buried in the cutting room floor. Tonight, we'll play that confession and piece together the missing fragments of Kubrick's final vision, what they didn't want you to see. Warning, what you're about to see and hear is explosive. It's already claimed multiple lives, and it could claim more. Before we dive in, a quick word about our partner VP.net, the next generation of private browsing. VP.net is the only VPN designed with true zero-logging architecture. That means unlike other VPNs, it literally can't track you. So even if governments or bad actors come knocking, there's nothing to hand over. It's that simple. Your data stays yours, period. Stanley Kubrick died of a so-called heart attack in his sleep, just 6 days after screening what he believed was the final cut of Eyes Wide Shut for Warner Brothers. He reportedly called it his greatest contribution to the art of cinema. But speculation has always lingered that Kubrick wasn't simply unlucky, he was silenced. And the deeper we dig, the harder it is to dismiss.
There was a man named Stanley Kubrick who produced and directed his last movie called Eyes Wide Shut. The movie Eyes Wide Shut, I think, from what indications I've received out of Hollywood, he died because of that film. I think he was assassinated because of that film, and I think he knew that his days were cut short. You need to get the movie, rent it and watch it, Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick. Because in the movie he shows how very sophisticated, wealthy, intelligent elites actually live, what their secret societies, blood sacrifices, murder, rape, pornography, killing. But on the surface, they are very important looking people. They have nice suits and they look good on television. And behind the scenes, they're murderous. And that's what the movie was called, Eyes Wide Shut, because that's exactly what America is doing. It's looking at these politicians and religious leaders with their eyes wide shut. Political leaders, religious leaders, all the same thing.
Let's rewind to the movie's first industry screening in London, just days before his death. Witnesses recall Kubrick's fury. His masterpiece had been mutilated. Narration stripped, scenes missing, subplots erased. This wasn't the Kubrick the world knew, the director of 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, The Shining. A man who fought for and maintained absolute artistic control over every frame of his career-defining films. The idea that Warner Brothers would strip him of that control for his final work? Unthinkable. As Pulp Fiction writer Roger Avery says.
There were people who were outside of the theater who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't fucking cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later.
Oh, Jesus.
So somebody went in and finished the movie, but I think when they finished the movie, they hid the film.
The version of Eyes Wide Shut that reached theatres was explosive enough. In it, Kubrick dared to show how the elites actually live. On the surface, they're polished and untouchable, dressed in sharp suits, speaking smoothly on television, projecting power and respectability. But behind the curtain, Kubrick revealed a darker truth. Secret rituals, used not just for pleasure but for control. And for those who crossed the line, the most dire consequences. Of the kind Kubrick was about to experience himself.
But I warn you, if you make any further inquiries, or if you say a single word to anyone about what you have seen, there will be the most dire consequences for you and your family.
No wonder the CIA acted on behalf of the global elite, their masters, to ensure the final cut never saw the light of day. We've got the details about that operation coming up. If you want proof how dangerous this topic is, just look at Quentin Tarantino. The man never stops talking until this comes up. Suddenly, he's quiet, tense, uncomfortable.
I was just thinking, I just pulled my script from Eyes Wide Shut. I had a script that was from set, and I was reading it over the weekend, and I saw that it has this. I mean, I've known this for a long time, but I started really thinking about it over the weekend. It's missing a narration. It's missing a third-person narration that was originally in the movie. And that's because the movie was recut and changed after his death. And they will deny it. But as a student of Kubrick, I'm watching the movie and I'm like, well, Kubrick wouldn't do that. Kubrick wouldn't do that either. And Kubrick would have trimmed this scene.
I didn't know they recut it after his death.
Okay, so apparently,
I think they finished it.
Well, that's the party line.
That's their version.
That's the party line. But I think that they changed the notes, the close-ups, the inserts of the notes. I think those are changed. It's missing a narration. It's definitely missing a narration. A third-person narration, like that scene where he sees the prostitute who's died. He's at the morgue and he's looking at her and he's like leaning over her. It's a bed for narration. There's this whole thing. What they do instead, because they couldn't say that Kubrick finished the movie because they hadn't done the recording of the narrator yet. And so maybe they just kind of kludged it together, except there's an entire thread that's kind of been squashed in that film. And that's the two men that are throughout the movie that are constantly in the background of the film, who eventually in the final shots of the film, you see like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in that final scene in the toy store when she's looking at the Rosemary's Baby bassinet, which is totally Kubrick saying something. And they never take their eyes off their daughter until the moment they take their eyes off and the final line of the movie is coming up. You see those two guys walking off with the daughter. They're taking her away. They've given their daughter to the pedo cult. That's what's happened at the end of the movie.
As much as they tried to dismantle Eyes Wide Shut after Kubrick's death, fragments of his vision still bleed through, enough to trace the outlines of the truly dangerous film he actually delivered. Take the final scene. It doesn't make a lot of sense in the version they finally released, because the crucial subplot had been surgically removed by hidden hands from the movie. But as Roger Avery said, if you watch closely, you'll see it, hidden in plain sight. In the background, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's characters appear to sacrifice their young daughter, led off by two men in dark suits. For most viewers watching the studio's heavily censored cut, it's a detail that's easily missed. But in context, it's a chilling clue to what Kubrick wanted us to understand about elite ritual child abuse and sacrifice, and what the studio tried to erase. After the break, Nicole Kidman's chilling testimony about what Kubrick revealed to her, the truth about psychopathic pedophiles in power, and why the media erased her words. Plus the bombshell deathbed confession of a CIA officer, exposing how an occult network with ties to King Charles carried out Kubrick's death, and the terrifying reason why. Let's be real, we've all been fed the lie that wrinkle creams are the ticket to looking young. I call bullshit. Dr. John Lake, a renegade beauty expert out of Beverly Hills, says that's a scam. Most of those fixes are just overpriced lotions that do nothing, or worse, mess up your skin. He says that he's done with the scammy cosmetic industry. Why? Because he wants to expose something they don't want you to know about. A 2-minute trick that's like Photoshop for your face. Wrinkles gone. Years erased. And it's so easy, you'll be pissed that you fell for their junk before. The cosmetic industry is afraid of the secret, because this could gut their racket. Lake is spilling the truth in a free video exclusively for viewers of this channel. No strings, no interruptions, just all the steps needed to do it yourself. It's already amassed over 2 million views, because it actually works. People are dropping decades, and the comments don't lie. You've got to see this. Visit bhmd1.com/TPV, the link's below. Don't sleep on this, because it's the real beauty secret they don't want you to know about. Visit bhmd1.com/TPV. If you don't believe paedophiles hold power at the very top, then explain this. Netanyahu's own deputy was arrested in a Las Vegas child predator sting, only to be quietly released. No charges, no explanation.
U.S. detains worker from Israel's top cyber defense agency for questioning. Prime Minister's office says incident resolved quickly. That really ending with a brief questioning of National Cyber Directorate staffer before his release and return to Israel.
It was a misunderstanding.
Israel always welcomes pedophiles back to Israel. That's
so this was a misunderstanding, Kurt. That's all this was, right?
Yeah.
Possibly. So the news people who are say it's possibly he pulled the diplomatic immunity card.
Oh, I wonder if they did that. I wonder how they got out of this one.
Wow. Briefly detained.
Yeah.
So they have impunity, just like they can slaughter people in Gaza, right, on camera with impunity. They can do whatever they want with the children in America, and their punishment is they get sent back to Israel.
Some things don't change. A century passes, faces change, regimes rise and fall, but the same dark pattern remains. Eyes Wide Shut was officially based on Arthur Schnitzler's 1926 novella, Dream Story. At first glance, it's the tale of a husband drifting through a strange erotic odyssey after confessing a troubling dream, his desire for a very young girl. That confession sets him on a path into a hidden world of elite orgies, where sex, secrecy, and power are bound together in rituals that blur the line between fantasy and nightmare. But here's the crucial detail. In Schnitzler's original story, the theme of underage temptation is unavoidable. In the studio cut of Kubrick's movie, almost all of that was scrubbed away. The studio made sure the references to paedophilia were mostly cut, leaving only a shadow of what Kubrick had intended. It wasn't only Hollywood studios doing the CIA's bidding to protect the occult elite and bury Kubrick's revelations. The mainstream media played its part too, making sure the most damning truths never saw the light of day. But every so often, a crack slips through. During an interview in Los Angeles, while promoting HBO's Big Little Lies, Nicole Kidman let slip the real theme at the heart of Kubrick's final film. Stanley Kubrick claimed that the world is run by paedophiles, according to Nicole Kidman, who revealed the reclusive director taught her how the world works and who's really in control behind the scenes while filming Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley told me the world is run by paedophiles, Kidman said. He studied secret societies his whole life. He was fascinated by them. And he said the elite, the top secret societies, they are full of men with certain predilections. They are tied together, sort of bonded by paedophilia. They all know each other's dark secrets. There is no way out for any of them. It's a lifetime bond. Even if one of them wants to go straight, repent, so to speak, he can't. His peers will bring him down. They are in it until death, driving the world to ruin. Asked if Kubrick's knowledge of secret societies and their darkest secrets had anything to do with his death, Kidman raised an eyebrow and said that's not a question I can answer here. Though maybe I could, none of you in the media would be allowed to print it, would you? The men who own your companies wouldn't allow it to get out. And that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The media refused to print a word of what she said about that dangerous topic. And the few outlets that dared, they were ruthlessly attacked by so-called fact-checkers and wiped from social media, erased just like Kubrick's original cut. But the truth has a way of forcing itself to the surface. Years after Kubrick's death, former CIA officer Robert David Steele passed a massive trove of files to the People's Voice. Steele had been a long-time ally in the fight to reveal what the elites wanted hidden. He trusted us with the material, but on one condition: that it would only be published if something happened to him. And eventually, it did. When Steele died in 2021, we mourned a friend, but we also understood what his mission demanded of us: expose the paedophiles, bring them to justice, and save the children. His case notes were clear. The CIA ordered Kubrick's assassination. It was both a warning to others, Tarantino included, and a way to stop Kubrick from pushing for the full release of his final uncensored masterpiece. So, who carried it out? According to Steele's files, the man responsible died in 2020. Before he passed, he left behind a deathbed confession. One Steele made sure was recorded, preserved, and meant for the world to hear. The weight of his guilt had become unbearable. He wasn't just CIA, he was embedded in the film industry itself, working undercover to steer projects from the inside. And he had infiltrated the Magic Circle, a secretive order of elite magicians, led by President David Berglas, with long-standing CIA ties. Among its honorary members, none other than King Charles himself. According to the confession, it was there that Stanley Kubrick met his end, in a ritualistic ceremony, staged as both an execution and warning.
I was never supposed to tell this, but I can't do it anymore. My life was lies, and one of those lies was Stanley Kubrick's death. I was recruited young, barely 20. They wanted fresh faces for the film industry. Kids who looked like they belonged on set, not in Langley. That's how they do it. Blend in, observe, influence. I worked as a production assistant on big films, The Omen, Superman. Later, I ran errands on The Shining. That's where I first crossed paths with Stanley. He was sharp as a tack. He watched people. He could tell he was fake. I remember one time, he looked straight through me and said, "You're not here for the film, are you?" He smiled when he said it. My blood ran cold. He knew. The agency kept me moving, always behind the scenes. My job was to nudge things, change the script, make sure certain names never appeared in the credits. Sometimes it was just watching, making sure actors or directors didn't step out of line. And if they did, you'd be surprised how fast careers vanish. I worked on Eyes Wide Shut too, though never directly. They wanted eyes in the room, always eyes in the room. As for Kubrick, they decided he'd crossed the line. He was mocking them, mocking their rituals, their power, their control, and he wouldn't stop. They told him to cut the film. He fought them. They censored it anyway, and still, he kept pushing, talking about forcing the release of the true version. That was enough. He was mocked. My role was simple. I was told to deliver him, to take him to the Magic Circle building in Houston. He thought he was meeting Burgess, David Burgess, magician, an old friend, someone he trusted, but Burgess was already deep in their pocket. I never imagined what was about to happen. I thought maybe an overdose or a stage accident. But when they pulled him inside that chamber with the symbols on the floor and the chanting, I knew it was different. It wasn't an execution. It was a ritual. They held him down. He was terrified, but he didn't scream. He kept staring at Burgess like he couldn't believe the ritual. Then the blade came down. They cut his chest open while he was alive. Pulled his heart out with their hands, holding it up like some kind of trophy. I'd seen a lot of death in the agency, but nothing like that. Nothing that obscene. The coroner wrote, "heart attack." And technically, he wasn't wrong. Kubrick did die without a heart. They still have it, preserved, below the Magic Circle in London, like a prize. I didn't take part in the ritual. I couldn't. I only delivered him. But that doesn't absolve me. I was part of it, and it's haunted me every day since. These people, the elite, they have ways and means that go beyond governments, beyond the CIA. If you mock them, if you expose them, they'll make an example of you. That's what happened to Stanley. And if you're hearing this, it's because I couldn't leave this world without telling someone the truth.
Kubrick wasn't the only one. Hollywood has a trail of bodies behind it. Artists who got too close to the truth. Brandon Lee was shot on the set of The Crow in 1993, killed by a prop gun that somehow fired a live round. Officially an accident. But his father Bruce Lee had already died mysteriously, and Steele's files suggest Brandon was under surveillance for the theme of death, rebirth, and corruption in that film. Like Kubrick, he was silenced. Fast forward to 2009, David Carradine, found dead in Bangkok, bound and hanging in a hotel closet. The tabloids laughed, called it autoerotic asphyxiation. But Carradine had been talking about secret societies, about Hollywood's ties to intelligence. His death was ritualized humiliation, another warning. And then there's Quentin Tarantino. Carradine's last big role was in Tarantino's Kill Bill, a film loaded with ritual symbolism. Carradine played the cult leader, the man behind the mask. And after that, he ended up dead. And Tarantino? Whenever Eyes Wide Shut comes up, the most talkative director in Hollywood suddenly shuts his mouth. Kubrick mocked them, Carradine exposed them. Tarantino knows what happens when you get too close. Here at The People's Voice, we're determined to continue exposing the crimes of the elite, but we need your help. Subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and family about us, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content. We can't do without you.